Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making an Italian staple, something I always have in my freezer. Red sauce, gravy, whatever you want to call it. It's great to have on hand and it's super easy to make. This is by no means a recipe that's been handed down for decades. This is just my version of a simple red sauce. Just a few ingredients and a little bit of time, and it comes together perfectly. Like any good recipe, at least in my opinion, we start with onions. So I like to use the sweet onions, Vidalia onion, whichever you prefer. But I think it has a milder flavor and it doesn't get overpowering and they don't make it cry as much. So after the onions are chopped up, we move right on to the pepper. I chose an orange pepper. You can use whatever you'd like. You can use the green peppers if you'd like to. This is just what I had in the fridge. So we're going to get everything cut up. We want it all cut up basically the same size, just so it cooks evenly and it gives your sauce a nice texture. And once we get everything cut up, we're going to get it in the pot with some olive oil. Don't need a lot of oil, just a little bit. We just want the vegetables to start to get soft. We're not going to brown them at all. We just want them soft. Get them in the pot, get them going. Medium-high heat is fine. And then after we get them in there, give them a little shake, get them flattened out a little bit. And then we're going to get our cutting board wiped off, because the next thing we're going to get ready is the garlic. Now I'm not using a lot of garlic in this, just a little bit. We really want to taste the flavor of the tomatoes in this recipe, so it's just a little bit of garlic in the background. And get that ready to go. Give it a stir. And before we put the garlic in, I want to make sure we open the tomatoes, because you want to have them ready in case your garlic starts cooking faster than you want it to. That'll give you a good way to get something in the pot that's going to cool it down so your garlic doesn't take off on you and burn. Okay, we're going to get some salt and pepper in there. Start with a little extra flavoring. And we'll get our garlic in there. And I'm just using the rasp to grate the garlic. You could chop it up if you wanted to. I just decided to use the rasp. And we'll get that in there. Like I said, I'm not using too much garlic, just a little bit. Okay, next is the Italian seasoning after we give it a good stir. And just a little bit of Italian seasoning, not too much. Like I said, the tomatoes are the star in this dish. We want to really taste the tomato flavors. And yeah, I might be able to get the lid on the jar. Okay, once we get the tomato sauce in, we're going to make sure we get the cans rinsed out, because you want to add a little water to this too. And what you want to do is, if you want to add some tomato paste to it, you're going to take your tomato paste and whisk it up with the water that's in the cans. And then you can add it all in at once. Okay, now once we get everything put in, water, your tomato paste. I want to make sure you give it a good stir. And then we will be adding some more salt and pepper. Flavor it in layers. And then after the salt and pepper, we're going to add some sugar. I know this can be a little bit of a controversy, but I like to add just a little bit of sugar. It gets rid of the bitterness of the tomatoes, mellows them out a little bit, and you can really, you get that tomato flavor in there. And then after the sugar is a little bit of wine, which you can leave out too if you would like. I had a little bit of a Pinot Noir left over, so I thought I would put that in there. It sort of makes it just a little bit richer, adds a little richness to it, a little depth to the flavor. Okay, after the wine, we're going to do our basil. I'm using fresh basil. This is a little basil plant I have on the counter. So I'm going to pick some leaves off. And then you want to make sure that you always wash your fresh herbs. It's the best way to ruin a dish, is to have sand in there from your herbs. So you want to make sure that you rinse them off really well before you put them in. And I want to use this, I don't like to use big chunks and have the whole leaves in there. So when I chop it up, I want it small bits. Give it a good chop. I don't like to get a big basil leaf in this. Sometimes you want the whole leaf, but in this circumstance, we want small pieces. And then I like to cover the pot with a splatter screen. And if you put the splatter screen on it, it helps it not get all over your stove, but it stops it from getting watery from the lid being on there. Makes a great addition to any dinner or lunch, and it's nice to have on hand. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I hope you give it a try. For more details and a copy of the recipe, check me out on Patreon at Braisingly Beau.